What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk about a big mindset shift, and that is really focusing more on what you want versus reacting to what you don't want and trying to manifest based on, well, I don't want this to happen, I don't want that to happen, and really focusing on your undesirable things versus desirable. And I catch that in myself a lot, where it's like, well, for example, maybe with like my body, I'm on like a fitness journey, weight loss journey, everything's a progression, but it's like, okay, I'm trying to get to a spot where like every day I'm waking up feeling healthier, fitter, stronger, etc. And it's tempting to like focus on like, well, there's still some lower belly fat, or there's still this weight loss that I need to achieve, or whatever. And it's like, well, even in that kind of example, I'm focusing on what I don't want, which is I need to focus on the fat versus what I do want, which is better cardio, better lung capacity, better mobility, better, so it's like you can focus in one of two ways. Either one, it's like saying one is right, one is wrong. There's just consequences. There's a correspondence in that mindset shift. And so it's like, if you start focusing more on what you want versus what you don't want, well, you start becoming a lot more freer in the progression, because everything is a journey. Whether that's playing a guitar, it's like there is no end to get to. There is no final eureka, you made it, congratulations, you're into like awesome mode. It's like every milestone leads to another mountaintop, and once you get to that level, you see two more levels that you didn't even know were a possibility before. So focusing on all the negative and all the problems and what you don't want, all the fear, all the what ifs and worst case scenarios and all this kinds of shit, yeah, it is a potential in creation, because everything is already created. So if you can think in that way, you can experience it, but you can choose again to experience more and more of what you do want. And what I mean by that is, like, you can look at your life as like no further example that God doesn't give a shit about giving you curses or blessings. It's like, look at your own life. Look at all the shit that's been a fucking chaotic mess. That is all functioning under divine correspondence, even the shit that sucks. So it's like you can focus and plant seeds that are cursing yourself, that you will eventually reap in due time, which time is in itself is an illusion, but there is a bridge of incidents, a series of events that, as these external events happen, there's mental activity that is also being strengthened in the event. And so it's like, scarcity is a good example versus abundance. It's two ways of looking at the same event. Whereas like I could give somebody $20 if I'm in scarcity. Now it's like, well, I just lost that. So I didn't really get anything positive. I lost it. I'm lesser. I'm weakened. I'm this. I'm that. And really focusing on that kind of mindset can really spin you down a trajectory that is low vibe, that is fearful, that is reactive, that is, well, now I need to do something to get this back. I need to force something to happen. I need to manifest something based on my limited understanding of what's going on, versus letting go of all of that, realizing that we're all connected. This is like, nothing is random. There's no just happenstance, coincidence, chaos, disharmony, disorder. All that shit is like mindset of being cursed. But when you realize that you're blessed and that your abundance comes from God, and that what you give you receive, multiplied, pressed down, comes back, good or bad. And that's the thing, we've already been doing this. This isn't turn the light switch on and we're in a brand new, it is brand new in the sense that you're becoming aware of how reality works, but it's not brand new in the sense that you've been doing this day one. You just were unaware that you were playing this game. And so the more that you put your attention and your energy on what you want, I think it was a Conversations with God series with Neil Donald Walsh, where he was channeling God through his book or whatever. And in that section of the book, he's talking about, Mother Teresa, is always, or what was it? It's like never be against war, because what you're against, you unconsciously are strengthening and emboldening and putting on a pedestal, and actually creating more of the problem, like the world. That's typical worldly logic. But let's focus on the problem. Let's go to war with it, and let's fucking just put everything we have into fixing this problem, which then actually strengthens the problem, because energy and attention will grow, again, curses or blessings depending on your state of mind and where you're coming from. And if you're coming from a place of fear and separation, especially not realizing everything is connected, well, you start becoming fixated on the shadow instead of fixing the self. And it's very similar to like, oh, I'm looking in a mirror and there's a frowny face. Instead of like smiling, we're gonna just break the mirror, and then now instead of like one mirror that's showing frowny faces, now there's 20 mirrors that are showing frowny faces. And unless we need to get more money, we need to get more things to battle with this undesirable. Well, instead, you can start to realize that to change the mirror, you change your consciousness. And part of the big shift in consciousness from going from cursed to blessed is being more conscious in what you're thinking about and what you're planting into awareness. It's like, oh, I was just daydreaming about getting cancer and dying and becoming broke and my wife leaving me. It's like, what? Why would you even be focusing on what you don't want like that? Well, Mike, it could happen. I could just fall off the rails. I could get fired and I'd lose all my value. And next thing you know, just start to spiral. And it's like, yeah, okay. Everything in creation exists. If you can imagine it, it can happen. It's like if you can imagine some fucked up medical condition or some fucked up human, there's some poor bastard out there that's demonstrating that for you, on some level to see, and then you point your finger out and go, look at the bad man. Again, it works both ways. You can look down the toilet of humanity, the bottomless pit, has no bottom, and sit there and point at the bad man and feel strengthened in the fact that you're so good and moral. Or you can realize that that's just how creation is. If you can imagine it, it exists. So you have a choice. Are you going to imagine what you don't want and experience that like a hell? Or are you going to consciously start thinking more in terms of what's desirable? Well, what you desire is actually just heaven. God, love, joy, peace, all of these things that feel good, that feel normal and natural, harmony, exceeding levels of that, where you're not just in this dysfunction all the time, all this fear. And the thing with fear is it's an illusion of mind. And it's an illusion in the sense of like you are telling yourself an inner narrative that's out of harmony with your creator. And because of that, there's this dissonance, there's this distortion in your consciousness, which then is planted into awareness, the field of awareness, which then will externalize that onto the screen of space, and you'll see that reflected back to you like a big delayed mirror. And you can either go, well, look at the bad man, or you can go, that's a limiting belief. That's a thought form made flesh that I can start to pluck that weed out of the garden of my life, replace that with a new belief, get into the Bible and start to replace your old limiting beliefs with more heavenly beliefs, more expansive beliefs, like all things are possible for God to do, and you and your creator are connected, the kingdom of God being within you. That's where that connection is. And so once you realize that God's not separate and apart somewhere in space, but is actively observing your thoughts, waiting to react to your thoughts in this correspondence, well, then you can start to realize, well, then it's pretty retarded to focus on what I don't want all the time, and then actually experience more and more of that coming back to me when I can actively choose to think of things differently and perceive things differently. But a lot of times to do that involves facing that limiting belief or facing that fear that's keeping you stuck at a certain level. And that's just one of those things that's just, as you start to face the fear and go for it anyway, well, then you start to level up and you start to renew your mind and really double down in a different way of like, oh, I am blessed. More and more blessings, more and more focusing on what you do want. And, music is an excellent example. It's like, you could focus on like, oh, I want to play music in front of people, for example. Well, for people that may have never done that, there can be some nerves and some fear of like, oh, what if people aren't vibing with what I'm doing? What if I fuck this up really bad? What if I forget how to play? What if I totally just forget the next part of the song? All these fears and what ifs, or getting up in front of people. I don't know if this is still accurate, but it used to be like it's like people would rather die than get in front of people and give a speech, at times, which after COVID you can see how, yeah, I could see how that is. I didn't used to think that was like that, but it's become pretty obvious that a lot of people are just afraid of their own fucking shadow, in metaphorically and actually, but like focusing on what you do want. It's just a choice. It's just, I'm going to start thinking this way because I can, and I'm going to stop just letting my mind spin out in fear. And so it's like, okay, well, I got my first opportunity to play in front of people. Maybe it's like a small crowd of like a party or something, maybe 30, 40 people, 50 people, whatever. And, to get to the point where you can play in front of lots of people, you have to be able to steward. Another way of saying that is like, whatever is in your space right now, whether it's 3 people, 50 people, 1,000 people, it doesn't matter. How well can you face your fear in that moment and demonstrate something awesome. So much of like playing the guitar, in my experience, is not being in the mind thinking about worst case scenario, especially when the shit's like, it's on, it's going, you're in front of people, you're playing. The less that you have this chitter chatter going on, the better. It's like you get more in these flow states where it's like you almost forget that you're even the one playing. It's just happening so simultaneously. You're so just like locked in the moment that any mind activity would actually be counterproductive. And when I fuck up, it's because of like some errant thought a lot of the times, versus like some fearful thing. But it's like the more that you face the fear and start to reprogram your mind not to be a slave to fear, which so much of the world is just demonstrating slavery and demonstrating this constant just being reactive to the screen of just whatever. It's like, oh, there's something going on in New York City, and somehow that matters to me in Indiana. It's like, yeah, I get that we're all part of the same country or whatever, but a lot of these problems that are going on in those specific areas, it's like, that's not what life is like here at all. I mean, I have fucking chickens in my backyard with turkeys and shit too. I mean, it's like, we are not living in the same kind of life. It's like, and it's like, yeah, we are, but there's so many differences that it's like, how are we going to be on the same page if you're thinking comes from like over here and I'm thinking like this, and it's like, how is that supposed to come together? Like, the shit that's affecting you is not fucking problems I'm having, and the problems I'm having is not problems you're having. But the biggest problem, the unifying problem that we're all having, is this fucking reactivity to fear and fixating on what you don't want. When it's like, don't be anti-war, be pro-peace, be for what you want. Don't be against the New World Order, for example. Be pro, citizen of heaven. Whatever. It's just like, you be an embodiment of the ideal of what you want. And whenever you catch yourself fixating on what you don't want, for example, it's just a quick bring yourself back to the present moment, and it's like, realize, hey, I drifted into unconsciousness again, started spinning out, started getting fearful, whatever. I started focusing on what I don't want to happen. It's like, growing this YouTube channel. Well, I don't want people that are just going to be mean. I don't want people that are just going to be hateful, and I don't want drama in the comments, and I don't, again, it's like, focus on what you don't want. It's like, well, why are you putting the mental activity in the present moment and what you don't want, when you could just be, what do I want? Spread a good vibe, be a network of awesome people, an awesome community of just people from all over the place. Hopefully I can do something that elevates their consciousness, makes them feel better, that it takes them out of like whatever fucked up state they may be in, and put them in a better state. It's like playing music, putting all that shit out for people to just kind of vibe on. There's a guy at church, because I've been playing guitar at my church for I don't know, a year or two. Time is becoming such a fucking blur to me that it's just like a year, 6 months. It's all the same to me. But like he's always like, let's give him heaven before going out and playing. And it's like, at first it was like jarring. It was like jarring to me because I was like so programmed by the Matrix to be like, oh, let's give him hell, dude. Let's go fuck shit up and do all this kind of stuff. And it's like, change the mentality that let's give them heaven. At first was jarring, but now it's like in a lot of the doing music, doing all these types of things for other people. It's like, yeah, let's give that vibe. What's the downside to that when you have so much competition, media and shit? This is a form of media, so it's like you can bastardize it or whatever, but this is doing the same thing. The only difference, really, is in the judging. It's like, oh, this is good, this is bad, because it agrees with my point of view. But it peering through the screen and letting others impress your subconscious mind, good and bad. This is kind of what's going on. But the thing of it is, it's like the more that you focus on what you do want versus the undesirable, which so much gets unconsciously our attention. But it's like the more you become pro what you want, the more that you realize what you want is just love, and joy, and just like these simple things. With the outer demonstration, we get so backwards at times where like the world just chases the shadow, not realizing the source of like these demonstratable things is in consciousness, and more importantly, your relationship to God and relationship to the thing, because ultimately it's all kind of one thing being manifested in all these different phases, these different forms, these different words, these different ideas, and everything is unique in creation. And it's like, how can everything be unique but then connected? It's part of this divine mystery. And the more that you focus your attention on like maybe the mysteries of creation, even, it starts leading you away from just being a slave to fear, a slave to just reacting to these outer situations, shit going on thousands of miles away. Well, Mike, don't you care about the people that are suffering and dying 500 miles away from you? And it's like, people, pray for people that are thousands, but ultimately, the people in that area need to figure their shit out. If that kind of stuff was going on where I live, you better believe that there'd be a fucking handful of people that are trying to solve that problem. You got these other areas. It's like everybody's got like bullshit going on, but that's for the local community to solve, not some overarching global fucking savior that's just gonna just put their finger on a button and just, you're in a utopia. We saved you. Congratulations. We did it. It's like, is that what we're thinking is helpful? I don't think that's that helpful. It's like, but I don't look towards like somebody on a pedestal to come to reach their hand down and save me from what I'm spending my attention on. It's like so much of the shit that people have problems with is just like, okay, yeah, you're in an addiction. Well, Mike, I don't do drugs. And it's like, well, you kind of do, in the sense that you're in a thought pattern, a circular thought pattern where you're focusing your time and attention on shit that's unserving and you don't even like it. And it's like a glaring example is like, people that are just fucking glued to their TVs on the news networks, getting programmed by all these like nonsensical events, then trying to make some broader Machiavellian, like, this is what reality is based on all this fucking, oh, did you hear about some crazy lunatic 500 miles away from you? The left's really just losing it. It's like, the left? You're just like, you get some psycho, and now it's like, oh, it's a political thing. Just it's like some people are just fucked up in the head. You don't need to make it a political thing. It's like they probably didn't even vote. It's like, but again, I see a lot of that kind of stuff where people are like, again, and I get it. It's somewhat entertaining, to see somebody getting beat up, or just like, especially if they're being a fucking idiot. I get it. I like watching that stuff too at times, but it becomes like, am I ruminating on it? Am I creating this like mental story about how things are just getting worse and worse, and the climate's going to shit, and there's violence everywhere, and there's all this Satan everywhere, and there's all this evil, and there's all this, and they're focusing all this time and attention. Oh, I can't go anywhere without this trans shit, and the vaccine bullshit, and it's like all this stuff in the world is super loud and super loud. It's like, yeah, where's your attention though? What are you doing in the face of that? Are you still watching all this news? Are you still reacting to the screen? The truth community gets played so fucking easily with this shit too, and it's like, probably one of the worst offenders, actually. Oh, Michael, how dare you say that? I'm after the truth. And it's like, okay, well, I feel like I just said something true. But like, the thing of it is, it's like, people want the screen to validate their own screen. It's like, let's go to the system and sue the system at their own game, and then we'll get a new system. And then it's like, constantly needing this external system is the fucking. It's like, yeah, it's good that we have like things in balance and everything, but the corrupting nature of those institutions and everything else. We gotta tear it down just to have another corrupting institution. It's like, nothing's gonna change until culture changes their mindset. Are you gonna hold your breath for that? Or are you going to focus more on what you can do for your family, the people around you? And actually, as you do that, that's how you actually have meaningful change. If you can't get your own head right, how are you going to have your household head be right? If you can't lead your own temple, how are you going to lead your wife and kids and all this kind of shit when things get real? It's like, first take care of yourself and your drama and bullshit and limiting beliefs and fear and everything else. You stop being a slave to it, so you can demonstrate it to your spouse and family, home, broader community, church, town, county, state. It's like, this like, oh, I need to like control the world, Austin Powers kind of supervillain mentality, like, is for one, illusionary, for two, destined to fail, because it violates so much of this metaphysical law. But it's a sinking ship, self-destructing sinking ship, that mentality, and focusing on it actually draws you into that same level of unconsciousness. So it's like, focusing on what you don't want, even the stuff that you don't want in the world. It's like, yeah, you can acknowledge that it's a weed, but if you're just going to sit there and make all these elaborate stories about it, become affected, drained, hopeless, despairing because you have dandelions in the garden of your life, instead of just plucking them out, changing your attention, stop, it's like, get off social media if it's so triggering, get off of the fucking news, Fox News, CNN, all these cable news. It's like, that's not helping. It's not informing you. It's programming you into a worldview that's not even, like, go outside. Everybody's in their own little bubble of reality, and I've known this for a fact. As like someone who's like has a handyman business, I'm in people's houses all the time. All these different people, everybody is in a different little world, and the idea that we're in this super, like, we're experiencing the same shit. Not even close. It's night and day different. It's like, you're sure as shit not experiencing things I am. Unless you're like, I don't know, have your own business, that do music, have a family. It's like, a lot of times I feel like an alien, in my own community because of all the random shit that's going on with me that's different than like the average person, in the sense, oh, Mike, are you saying you're better than other people? And it's like, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying it's different. It's like there's not very many music producing, guitar playing handyman in the town I live in that have lived the life I've lived, and metaphysically seen the fucking shit I've seen, and there's just not a lot of it. And so, but everybody's kind of like that, it's like you start talking to people, you get in their homes, and everybody's in their own little world and does things differently and perceives things that it's weird, but it's also kind of the way things the way things is whatever. But I think I'm gonna bounce. Appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully this is like a nice little reminder if you're just like focusing on what you don't want and trying to like navigate your day by trying to avoid what you don't want versus like, what do you actually want? Do you just want to be peaceful today? Or do you just want to feel like, what do you want? Not what do you, like, I don't want to get sick, and I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want my spouse to be angry at me. I don't want this dysfunction with my kids. I don't want, again, those are the things that are the weed. What is the good fruit? What can you focus your time and attention on? Because whatever you're putting your time and attention on is going to grow. Curses or blessings. So hopefully that's a reminder to break out of like the cursed mindset that's constantly, habitually, addictively focusing on what it doesn't want, versus like the new creation that you are in Christ, where you focus consciously on what you do want. So a lot of times you just want more love, which is ask, believe, receive, and it's yours. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys being here, guys and gals, girls, guys, people, humans, entities, divine creators, whatever your label is. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your attention for this long. Appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Donation link in the description. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind messages that go along with the donations. I read them, very heartfelt. Hopefully I can give that same energy back to you through doing music, music license, whatever. Hopefully what I'm doing is on some level has some value to you. But with that being said, I'm gonna bounce. So appreciate you guys. Until the next now, God bless.